all across space. All across time. Mysteries that we can't understand.
Dude, this is a fucking drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude.
Looking into the stories and those behind them. Welcome to UAP Insight Podcast. James, it's great to have you. It's been a long time coming, and I'm glad I could finally have you here.
Well, a pleasure to be on the show.
Thank you very much for coming on. So let's just kind of glaze over your early history. I understand you were born in the United Kingdom, but kind of grew up in the United States. Is that correct?
Yes. My father was a journalist. He lived, he's English. I was born in England, but I moved to Brooklyn Heights in the early 70s. And then my father got multiple sclerosis, and his neurologist advised him to move to a cool, calm, clean environment and live out his life to the best he could, because there were really nothing that the medical community could do for him. So he picked a little fishing village in Northern California, and that's where we moved. So, and he was a journalist / writer, like author of books, but his bread and butter was primarily, magazines. He wrote for Sports Illustrated, Car and Driver. He actually was one of the people that introduced acupuncture in an article in Playboy magazine back in the days, I think it was the early 70s. But in any case, could have been late 60s. I don't remember. And I don't think I have that copy, but it'd be fun to know. But I ultimately became my dad's, as his disease got progressively worse and he could no longer walk. I became his chauffeur, his nurse, his secretary. And we would go on assignment together, travel around. And most people in wheelchairs don't go very far. My dad traveled around the world in a wheelchair. So we've had some pretty extraordinary stories over the decades of traveling. And he went from being a paraplegic, which is, paralyzed from the waist down, to a quadriplegic the last 20 plus years of his life.
Yeah, I can only imagine how rough that is. I've got family that's dealing with MS as well, so I can kind of commiserate with you on that.
Yeah, that's why I don't take my legs for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I try to take the stairs as opposed to the escalator. If I have an option, I'll always take the staircase. When I'm staying at hotels, unless I'm on the 15th, 16th floor, I'll try to take the staircase, because I got legs. My dad used to say to me, if you have legs, use them.
yeah, absolutely. So continuing on that kind of link with your dad, how did having, a journalist as a father kind of influence your upbringing and what you do now?
Well, I remember, I would attend my father at interviews. We got to, on 2 occasions, go and meet with Stephen Hawking. And one of the first time, I was probably 19 or 20, and Stephen Hawking, they had some revolution at the time. It was revolutionary technology that enabled him to communicate through a software program, because he had movement in only one finger, which actually at the end of my dad's life was a lot more than he had. But Stephen Hawking had movement in like a thumb, and he could scroll through this computer software program and construct sentences and communicate with the outside world on his own. And we went and I remember the time seeing Stephen Hawking, like, my gosh, he was like, my father looked like a track star compared to Steve Hawking at the time. But I got to go do these really cool stories with my father and watch his interview techniques, and interaction with people that he didn't know, doing interviews. And I don't know, I hopefully picked up on some of that over the years. And I was never much wasn't much of a big reader. I had disabilities growing up. Um, and so I always thought that I didn't anticipate that I would be a writer, but I liked kind of journalism. And then I picked up the camera, which is, I probably one of the last generations that remembers life before, video, when it was like film. When I was growing up, if you wanted to document stuff, you did it on, 8 millimeter, 16 millimeter film. I saw the advent of the video camera, which was amazing, that you could, like, shoot and then instant playback. That was amazing. And I remember thinking, wow, what a great format for journalism, because you can document stuff in instant playback, and, you know, became relatively affordable. And of course now cameras are ubiquitous, and editing software and all that stuff. So yeah, it's kind of how I decided to, you know, chase after. I, I kind of guess I would consider myself just a documentary filmmaker. I don't consider myself, even though my films primarily specialize in UFOs. I wouldn't consider myself a ufologist, um, or whatever you call that trade. I think of Stanton Friedman and Richard Dolan and Jacques Vallée. Those guys have really studied the phenomenon, the history of the phenomenon, much more than me. I've just stuck my teeth into a number of cases that I just happen to know very, very well because of, covering them in documentaries, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think is the number one lesson you can think back on every time you're about to do like a filming session, or, start questioning somebody that you learned from your father?
Don't look up, because sometimes looking up can be overwhelming, particularly with an 8-year long project. Chisel away, make progress every day. If you can't afford to do it right, wait until you can. Don't cut corners. Work yourself to the brink of death is pretty much what I have to do. People have no idea. Like, I will remind myself, and that's my studio now. It's where I edit. I've edited the last 3 docs. I did first version of Moment of Contact, then I did the program, then I did Moment of Contact, New Revelations, which is the current form that's out now. I did it in that studio, and there are times when it's so challenging, it's so difficult. People just have no idea. People go, "Oh, let me come by. I'm going to watch you edit. It must be incredible. I want to watch the magic." And after like 45 minutes, they're nodding off, going, I just watched the same scene like 50 times. Like, how many times, you know? And I'll see people at a screening of a rough cut, and they'll like look away or check their phone or tie their shoe or go to the bathroom. And I'm thinking to myself, you just missed like probably the most awesome transition I've ever done. It took me like a week. And granted, it's only 30 seconds, but I worked really hard on that 30 seconds, and I'm really proud of it. But, make progress every day. Know that it's really hard, and don't give up.
Beautiful advice for anybody out there that's kind of looking into filmmaking. What one more question on the making of the movie.
Yeah.
Um, how do you determine, what goes into a really high quality like B-roll shot?
I met Dave West on it was the best thing that came out of the silly TV show. I met this guy, Dave West, and I'd done 50 years. I did Out of the Blue Director's Cut, which I spent a couple more years on than I did I Know What I Saw. And he said to me, James, man, you really need a better cinematographer. I'm like, well, I've shot most of my films. I've had some help, but basically it was been me. I'm doing the interviews, the audio, the camera. Like, he's like, yeah, you need to up your game a little bit. You need to get some really good B-roll. And so, long story short, as I was talking about earlier, if you can't afford to do it right, raise the money and do it right. Dave came on board and he shot incredible B-roll, and I got drone footage. And what I generally do is I'll do a collection of different moods of B-roll. Some of it's time lapse, some of it's aerial, some of it's just random beauty shots in nature, just wherever. And then I would get a bin of probably, I don't know, 6 or 10 hours of B-roll. Then I'd whittle it down to my top 50 or top 30 and color coordinate them. And then I'd put them in a timeline of B-roll, beautiful B-roll. Some of it's sunsets, some of it's sunrises, whatever, cloud formations. And then when I need a breather in the film, I'll go and pick the appropriate mood and grab from my timeline of beautiful B-roll. And I have the same thing like I do when I'm making a film. I'll go through, you kind of like, sometimes you feel like you can just cut corners and, oh, I know what I really want from that interview, but never pays to try to cut corners. You take all the content that you shot, you watch every second of all of it, and you carefully categorize and organize. Like, I even color code my stuff. Like, if it's gold, it's like, wow, this is really good. This should go in the movie. If it's purple, if it's blue, it's generally B-roll. Like, I color code everything, and then I usually have a film categorized into 3 sections, act 1, act 2, act 3. And I'll say, okay, this is going to be really good for act 1. This is more of an act 2. This is more closing statements, act 3. Then I kind of organize it all. And then I kind of put it all together in the timeline, act 1, act 2, act 3, and then start stitching it together. And I never write script ahead of time. I let the film write itself. And a lot of people think I'm crazy, and it's probably much more time consuming, but I find it to be way better to let the film write itself, you know?
Yeah,
And that
absolutely. Because if the story can't tell itself, then, where's the, heart of it, the soul of it?
Yeah, and every scene should be moving. And if it's not, cut it. I mean, I call Killing Your Darlings. Every time I finish a rough cut, it's always way too long. And most people that are not in the industry can't sit through a rough cut. They don't get it. They'll look at it and go, "Oh, this movie's terrible. This movie's not going anywhere." Like, my first couple cuts of The Phenomenon, they were like 3 hours long, and I had people going, "Dude, you can't. This movie's not going anywhere." I'm like, "Look, man, this is a rough cut. It's always long. Now I got to start killing my darlings. We call it killing our darlings, taking segments that you've worked very, very hard on and just cutting them right out. And you have to keep trimming the fat, and you trim it down. And if every scene, like, either it has a very profound and significant, like, meaning, or uh I call it connective tissue between one scene and another. And if it's not very relevant and very moving and doesn't absolutely have to be there, cut it out. Cut it out. It's like people that make an album of 15 songs. They got 2 hits and the rest are just fluff. Don't do that fluff. Every scene should have a purpose. Every scene should move the narrative along, and the film should build. Like, it's okay to level off, right? But you don't want to go down. Once you start a film, you do this, right? All the way until the end. At the end, it should be the climactic, oh my God, scene.
Yeah.
And but don't start a film up here and then start going down again. You can't. Don't do that. Yeah, don't do that. Every scene should be moving. Every scene should be relevant. Every scene should add to the narrative. And you ask yourself, what do I want the audience to walk away from? You can ask yourself that early on, and that gives you an objective. Okay, what is it? What is that? You know, what's your elevator pitch? What do you want the audience to walk away from? And that really will help you define how you're going to put the movie together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing advice. So, moving on, let's get into the beef of it.
And you
You've
got to be
gone
patient. You got to be patient. These things do not happen overnight. I'm editing right now a little short birthday video with my son. It was his 10th birthday. He's about to be 12, so we shot it almost 2 years ago. And he's like, "God, Dad, I thought this was going to take like 15 minutes." I was like, "No, man, we got to go through all the content. We got to whittle it down. We got to edit it to the segments we like, and then we got to stitch it together, and we got to put some music to it. This is going to take like 8 hours." And, he gets really impatient. He's young and he expects things to be immediate. People that watch YouTube or podcasts, they don't realize how much work generally goes into doing that. Unless, you're like a Joe Rogan or something and they just do straight cuts or just raw, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, a lot goes into it and you got to be patient. And the more you care, don't let something slide. It needs to be good and moving and relevant. And take the time and do it right, and you'll stand out from the others. Don't be lazy. Put in the time.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful advice, and, I know at least one person out there is gonna take that to heart and put out, very high quality content based on that advice.
I usually have a pinched nerve or a thrown out back. Like when I finished the phenomenon, I could with the last couple months, I couldn't walk. I was lying on my back and I was directing this guy, Lance Mungia, great guy. And I was like directing him to edit. And he's like, "Dude, you need to go to the hospital, man. You can't even walk. What are you doing?" I was like, "We gotta get this documentary done. Like, gotta keep pushing." He's like, you can't even walk right now. What are you doing?" It's like, if it's like a near death experience. And the phenomenon, I'd have to say I'll never have the luxury of that kind of time again because it was like at least 8 years from concept to completion, at least. And it might have been 9. So I was 43 at concept, 44 it started filming, and the film came out when I was 52. So do the math. What is that? It's a long time.
Yeah, I went to school in Northeast Washington. I'm bad at math, but I mean it's
But at least 8 years, possibly 9, But I would I would take a scene and I always edit films in segments. And if I'm rambling, just stop me. But I always edit film in segments. Like I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna focus on, let's just say Socorro or Rua or Varginha or whatever. And then I stitch them together later. But I'll take a segment like Socorro. I must have ripped that apart and put it back together again 50 times, maybe 100. I don't know. Hours and hours, hundreds of hours on a 10, 12-minute segment of the film. Rua, Zimbabwe, which culminated, which is the end of the phenomenon. God, I took that apart, put it back together. We crafted language. We would spend half a day writing one sentence, carefully choosing our words. Like every word was carefully crafted in that segment. That was one of the most polished segments of anything I've ever done. I was incredibly proud. And I remember talking to the music composer, Christopher Hogue. And I said, "Christopher, I want you to think outside the box. Like, I want you to think about distortion of reality. Imagine if you're standing there looking at aliens in the face, like just whether you believe it happened or don't happen. Like, I want you to put the audience in that headspace. I want you to distort reality. I want everything to feel out of place, awkward, and wrong." Do you know what I mean? Not
yeah.
necessarily scary, like spooky, like they always like default to that, but I want to feel like I'm experiencing something that I didn't even know this feeling existed within my being. Think about,
Yeah, yeah, just
you
soul
know,
wrenching.
yeah, just like taking reality and just, just grabbing it
Yeah,
and distorting it.
yeah.
And
If
I want you to feel
onological
it.
shock were a noise and a feeling
Yeah.
at the
And it's
same
like,
time.
you don't hear it, you feel it. And I remember talking to him about that because I really wanted to put people in that space because that's where the children were when they were looking at these beings. Anyway, so these are all just, you know, these are all because documentaries should be informative, but they should also be entertaining. People want to be entertained. People want to be plucked out of their reality. And you want to be put in the room with that witness, right? You want to feel what they felt. You want to see what they saw. Those are all tricks of the trade, and that takes time and mood and visuals and sound. Sound is important, man. Really, really important, especially a proper mix. I've learned that in the last, since since the phenomenon, um, I did a professional sound mix by a guy who works with James Cameron. Very expensive, very time consuming, but let me tell you, it's a game changer. Once you do it once, you'll never go back. I mean, very expensive. You max out your credit card and take a while to pay it off expensive.
Yeah, yeah, for
Anyway, I'll shut
sure.
up. I'll shut up. Get to the next question so I don't
Good,
have to
good.
chew your ear off.
So, this is kind of a longer question. I actually had to type all these out and print it out so I could ask them. So forgive me if I'm looking away,
Oh,
but
no problem. No problem.
um, as an independent filmmaker whose work from Out of the Blue to the program and Moment of Contact, New Revelations, as as your movies have reached like mainstream audiences via platforms like Amazon and Apple TV, how exactly are your investigations and productions funded, and what structural safeguards do you maintain to prevent streaming partners, donors, or production deals from influencing witness selection, narrative framing, or release timing around sensitive topics like alleged UF handoffs in Virginia?
I had an opportunity to lean into Netflix when I was doing the phenomenon, like, putting together like potential, because they're very interested in a series, right? But then I started thinking about it, and so like I'll give you an example. They wanted me to take the Rua Zimbabwe segment of the phenomenon, which I felt was a masterpiece. That's just my opinion. We worked very hard, and Mark Barish and a number of other people worked very hard on that segment. They wanted me to take that and they wanted me to put an opposing viewpoint. And I looked at them and I said, hang on a sec, just so I understand you guys. You're telling me that you want to put someone's opinion who wasn't there to tell what the children didn't see? Like, really? Over my dead body. And I said to myself right then and there, I'm never going to work for anyone else ever because this exact reason. These idiots think they know better when they don't, like to treat, witnesses, cases with some level of seriousness, right? Cut out the green smoke, the spooky music, spooky ooky music, and that treatment that for so long the UFO phenomenon got in production. And so I remember thinking, like, with Netflix or any one of these TV stations, I'm never, oh, I'm not going to work for these executives. I'm gonna continue totally independent. I mean, you can see this is my barn. This is where I do stuff, um, completely independently. And funding has been a challenge. I mean, a little bit less as of late, but still been challenging. Um, the market changes too. It's like, you and it's hard to find the sweet spot. You know, how much do you like? Honestly, like once I finish a film, it's usually a couple $100,000 to make if you want to do it right with travel expenses and paying your camera crew and getting good B-roll and editing, and then you, and then once you you have a rough cut done, you got to pay the color correction, you got to pay the sound design, you got to pay, you know, musician to put composer to put the score together. These things all cost a lot. So like, where's the sweet spot? Like, you got to be able to pay all your borrowed money back and then obviously hopefully make some money on top of that, which is lucky if you do that. But things keep changing too. Like right now, it used to be like back when I first started, you'd do a doc on spec, and then you'd hopefully get it picked up by one of the big channels, maybe Discovery or NBC, ABC, uh, eh, um, Sci-Fi Channel, whatever. History Channel, Sci-Fi Channel, Discovery Channel. And then maybe you'd get a little home video distribution deal on the side and make a little money. Now there are so many different platforms, and it was like what you call TVOD. So you put it out on TVOD, which is transactional download, like Apple or Amazon or one of these, and people could either rent it or buy it, right? But that's changing now too, because people don't want to pay for anything anymore. Now they want free. They don't realize how much goes into putting good content out there, and people aren't really doing docs like I do docs. They're doing more like podcasts, and that's work. That's a lot of work, but nothing like editing a documentary old school way. That's real work, like really hard.
Yeah.
But these podcasters work their butts off too, and they're cranking content out and to their subscribers and stuff, but people want things for free. So now there's like streaming like YouTube Movies, which has, I don't know, over 300 million subscribers, pretty good exposure, but you stream with commercials. So there's that route, right? And it just, again, it's just changing. Like Netflix was the dominant, streamer, and they're still very influential and have great reach. That's the nice thing about them, but they're also just a real pain in the butt to deal with because they like to do things their way. And I really feel like this topic deserves credibility and seriousness, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So what
So I don't know if there's other aspects
platform
that
gets you
I could,
the best return on your investment? If people were to pick one platform to buy, rent the movie on, just to support you, what platform would be the best?
well, I mean, we're on TVOD, which is Amazon, where you rent it or buy it for usually 3, 4, 5 months, and then we'll transition to free streaming, maybe like a YouTube Movies, Hulu, Fandango, I don't know. I think Amazon Prime even has streaming. People that have an account with Amazon can stream it for free, I believe. But YouTube Movies is pretty good. I mean, a lot of my previous films are up on YouTube Movies. The first version of Moment of Contact, the program, the phenomenon, those are on YouTube Movies. And I think out of the blue, I Know What I Saw is going to be uploaded there fairly. They've been approved, and they're waiting for those platforms to open up to bring them on. So, um, yeah. But if people like what I do and they support my work, just rent it from Amazon, rent it from Apple.
Yeah, highly suggest everyone goes out and pays you know either rents it 10 days in a row, so that that's $30 right there, or pays the $22.99 to buy it.
I
And
think it's actually cheaper than that. I think you can buy it for like $9.99, I think. And
I'm not sure, but it's worth
Amazon
every
takes
penny.
and Amazon takes half right off the top. Can you believe that?
Shame on you, Amazon. James deserves better.
Oh, that's horrible.
50% gone
Oh.
right off the top. Then your distributor, your aggregator, like someone like maybe a Film Hub, they take 17 to 20%. So before, like let's just say that you sell it for $9.99 or whatever, let's just say $10 because it's easy. You know, Amazon takes 5, and then 20% of that is gone. And then you got to pay your investors who have 30%. So then they get 30% of whatever's left. And then you get, you know, it's like the lion's share is gone before I see any of it. So it is kind of frustrating. I mean, who was the comedian that went out and he was complaining of the same thing, and he finally made his content directly to his supporters, to his people that want to support him. And Louis C.K., he did that. He sold the tickets directly to his people and cut out all the middlemen because he was getting like 20%, you know, which isn't fair. That's your artist. You're the one working your butt off, and then everybody else makes a bunch of money, but you. I mean, every time I see what's his name, Bezos on his yacht, I think about he's taken half of everything I've ever made on Amazon. 50%.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's a lot of money, man.
Yeah, that's highway robbery.
I think it is. I mean, it's pretty brutal, man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's move into Varginha. The latest updates. I know you posted on X the other day, or maybe it was yesterday. You had been communicating with someone on Signal that possibly had some information from the U.S. side of the creature or the airlift of the C-17 from Campinas to the United States. Something along those lines.
Yeah, I've had 2 people reach out to me, and then they both have gone dark, which you know, obviously could be a scam. But why would you give me specific stuff and then vanish? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you not ask for a dime? Like, why would you write a really heartfelt message and then disappear? Why would you do that? It's either somebody got to them, or, I mean, if you're going to play a prank on someone, you'd follow through at least, right?
You would think, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I'm awfully suspicious. I mean, there are other things that I'm not at liberty to talk about because I can't jeopardize what's happening behind the scenes. But there's an effort, and, you know, I'm working with some people on the inside because there are some good people that are um, that are on the inside that I trust. We got to trust someone. And so that's an ongoing effort, but it's interesting because, you know, I did an event at the National Press Club on January 20th, which just, you know, it was deliberate, but that's the 30th anniversary of the Varginha incident because it happened in January of 1996. So in January 20th, 1996, we held that event where I flew in a bunch of witnesses from Brazil, right? And I invited members of Congress, and I actually arranged a closed door meeting with Leslie Kean, and had a number of members of the task force, you know, part of not part of Arrow, but part of people whose responsibility within government, members of Congress, to investigate the phenomenon and introduce them to some of the witnesses, and they felt it so compelling that they are launching their own investigation to try to get the flight logs of any planes, even if they're classified missions that left during that time frame. Because we have a date and we have a location, right? We have a rough date. It's on or around the 20th, 21st, something like that. Possibly a little earlier. Hard to say exactly, but yeah. So that's all happening.
Altitude again, and then it
E sumiu
lost
atrás de uma
power
montanha.
completely and disappeared behind a mountain.
Nesse momento eu saí maluco.
So he went like a crazy man
Eu falei,
after
gente,
his car.
o pessoal deve estar desesperado
These
porque
people must be
você
desperate.
pensa em combustível, fogo,
You think about fuel, you think about
pessoas
fire,
desesperadas,
desperate
precisam de
people
ajuda.
inside.
So we'll just have to see. You know, it's an ongoing investigation. Every time I go back to Brazil, and I've been there 4 times in the last 12, 13 months, we uncover more and more stuff. I met a nurse, the family of the chief of police, that came up to me. Dr. Italo, he's the neurosurgeon who claims to have had face-to-face contact with a captured live alien. Italo's telling the truth. He's telling the truth. How do you know? Because I was there. I'm like, "Oh my God, are you ready to come forward? Can you?" No, I can't come forward now. I'm just a nurse. I can't. Not now. I got too much to lose. Well, so there are other doctors that we're getting in touch with. So again, it's an ongoing investigation. I'd like to ask Giannini how long Giannini has known Italo.
Faz quanto tempo que o senhor conhece o Ítalo?
Desde que ele chegou em Varginha.
Ainda usava fralda.
Okay. So a long time. Safe to say a long
Cheguei há
time.
48 anos.
48 years.
48 years.
Você chegou menos.
Dr. Armando, how long have you known?
35 anos.
35 years.
35 years. How long have you known Italo?
35 também.
About 35 years too.
35 years. So, doctors, when he says he saw the creature in captivity at Regional Hospital, do you guys believe him?
Então, quando o Dr. Ítalo fala que ele viu a criatura em cativeiro, né, no CTI, vocês acreditam no que ele fala?
Com certeza. Deixa eu fazer uma pergunta. Doutor Cesário,
Tem credibilidade para isso.
doutor Cesário e doutor Ito, já viram infecção bacteriana comum correr dessa maneira em 7 dias?
Não.
Dr. Italo.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you attempted to like reach out to the commander of like the air wing that likely was
Yes.
the originator?
Yeah, it was General, give me a second here. Because
Lieutenant General Edwin Tenoso? Does that sound familiar?
there was a press conference a couple months after the incident. I'm going to guess maybe it was March. I can't remember. It's in the movie. And I think it's General Lima, I believe, and who had the press conference, who was in charge of ESA military base, ESA. It's an acronym. And I said, he responded, believe it or not, and we started having some correspondence. I said, General, if you could speak to your grandchildren about the case, what would you say? And the reason why I asked him that question, if he's going to lie to me, I'm asking him to lie to his grandchildren. And he actually gave us a rather interesting response. We didn't put it in the doc, but it was more like kind of hypothetical that essentially like, it's a big universe, possibility of life, and an incident where this confirmation happened could have happened in Varginha, Brazil in 1996, something like that. And, excuse me for yawning, these people aren't getting any younger. And a lot of them, like Dr. Italo, the neurosurgeon, don't want to take it to their grave. And this event happened 30 years ago, and people in their 40s and 50s are now, 70s and 80s. So I'm anticipating more and more people will be coming forward in the coming years.
Wow. Yeah. And how about from the U.S. side? Have you tried reaching out to anybody that might have been in control?
Almost every single podcast I do, including Joe Rogan, I put out a message. If any of you are listening, to please contact me. In fact, I've got a Proton email that I've been giving out, and I'm not sure if this is going to be released in a couple of days. If so, perhaps you could put it across the screen and I can text it to you or email it to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's a Proton email, and if anybody has any firsthand knowledge or knows somebody who does, they can reach out to me.
Yeah, we'll have that right up on the screen right now. And then,
Excellent.
I know back in the mid-90s, 1995 to 1997 timeframe, there was only a couple of air wings across the United States that had C-17 Globemasters, because it just had become a viable flight platform officially in 1995. So by 1997, you had two main air wings. So you had the 21st Air Force and the 22nd Air Force, which were the two that actually were, the main air wings, both out of Charleston Air Force Base in South Carolina that had C-17s that could have been ready to go at any moment. So have you tried reaching out to the commanders of those air forces or air wings to try and get a
I
statement from them?
I have a United States Air Force colonel slash UFO witness from 1980, Colonel Fred Clausen, and he has been sticking his teeth into this. He's got every tail number. He knows everything. Where if in a hypothetical, if it was this plane, this had to happen. It was that plane, that had to happen. This is the range of those planes. This is how far it is. It would have had to refuel in the air. It would have had to refuel on the ground. There's paper trail here, paper trail there. Like, he's on it. He's literally going through every single tail number of every C-17 there was out there, as well as, because we're pretty sure it was a C-17. We have a photograph of a C-17 that was, I think it was taken in January of 1996, but not at Campinas, because I just got clarity on this. I think it stopped in Campinas, took on the load from Varginha, and then it flew for a gas stop. Again, this is what I was told, and stopped somewhere in the Amazon, and that's where the photograph was taken, and that is a C-17. So but we don't know for sure that was the plane that stopped in Campinas. We think it was, right? But yeah, we're going after it. We're going after all of them. I mean, you saw in the movie we filed a FOIA request for those any flight logs of planes that came into Campinas during, like, I don't know, let's say the 10th of January to the end of the month, and I got a reply back from the CIA saying that they can neither confirm nor deny, and due to, like, National Security Act of 1949, my request was denied.
Yeah, I've had some kind of similar weird experiences with FOIA like that, where you submit it to one agency and another agency comes back. So
Mm.
I've submitted a few requests to like Department of Human Services, Health and Human Services, which Robert Kennedy's now the head of. And since submitting those, I was able to get a denial response of any records from a Space Force wing in Pennsylvania, of all
Wait, is this
things.
wait, so I'm sorry, what's this pertaining to?
It was pertaining to any anomalous biological samples that were obtained between 1995 and 2005.
Okay, because I was told that the bodies, and I just found this out, that the bodies are kept on the East Coast, and that was as far as I got with that. But so I would say, and I'm very curious to know, how long did these entities stay alive? How much communication did they have? There was
Yeah.
limited communication with the neurosurgeon, but he said it was an advanced intelligence, so far advanced, higher than anything he's ever seen here on Earth. So and that was what, a 3 or 4 minute, meeting. Imagine
Yeah.
if it were days or weeks. Imagine how much communication. How did they crash? Why did they crash? Were they shot down? Where are they from? Like, I'm so curious, I'm dying to know what happened on the American side and how long they stayed alive.
Yeah, yeah, I think we're all with you on that, James. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of the biggest questions out there right now, and this is, obviously likely one of the biggest and freshest cases of this nature to have ever
I
happened.
can't I can't think of a better case, more recent, more well-documented case. It's it for
Yeah,
me. I mean, there's all this talk of crash retrieval. You got age of
yeah,
disclosure, all the congressional hearings, um, biologics, as Grush would say. But I mean, this is it. This is the case. I challenge anyone out there to show me more credible firsthand eyewitness testimony than this. And look, people are frustrated. I want the video of it. Oh, I have the video. It didn't happen. Like, you don't think that's what we're going after? Like, really? You don't think for a minute that that's what I'm trying to do? Our whole team? I've been on the biggest podcasts all across Brazil, put out massive, you know, uh, reward out for it, like, big time. I mean, you know, I think the average teacher, and I could be a little off the mark here, but I think it's between $200 and $300 a month they make in Brazil, okay? When teachers, unfortunately, notoriously paid poorly, but you can imagine, let's just even say even if it was $400 a month, okay? We're offering $100,000 US. Do you know how much money that is in Brazil,
Uh,
what you can do with that?
I mean, even here in the United States, that's a ton of money. That's double what, above minimum wage worker in Washington state makes in a year. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
And and we're doing that across. And there were a couple people that we were in touch with a couple years ago after I went on Rogan. I was like, I felt pretty confident we were going to get it when we were in talks. The problem is if they're true, and we know it's out there, and I've talked to lots of people that have seen some of the photographic evidence. Okay, so how do you get it? Am I supposed to just go into the country with $100,000 cash? That ain't going to happen. How do you do that? Now I got a target on my back. I'd have to have 10 people fly in with me, all carrying 10 grand each, because that's the legal limit. So now we have 100,000 in cash with us. We have a huge target on our back. Like, you going to show me the footage first? Because I ain't giving you a dime without seeing the footage and having it analyzed. So who makes the first move? There was one person that we were dealing with that her husband had it and he died. And she was like, I don't even want any money. I just want this out of my life. This is like, I want it out. I said, look, I'll get on the next plane, but you need to show me at least a second or something that you've got something. She wouldn't do that. She was worried. I don't know. But I was like, I'm not going to just fly with a crew because that's, I'm in the middle of I was in the middle of the time of editing the program. I was like, I can't just pack up and leave. Give me a frame or two and I'm on the next flight. Wouldn't do that. And then finally, after 3 or 4 months of back and forth, gone. And I'm also, anybody who has it is, they're very worried, and they should be, because they're threatening eyewitnesses. Imagine what they're doing to people with people with real evidence, like photographic evidence. That's your life right there. They're threatening eyewitness accounts, So
yeah,
think
that's
about, you're an eyewitness, plus you've got a video. You got stuff to worry about, I can assure you. So it's tough. It's tough, I mean, it would take like somebody who has it, somebody who's retired, maybe upload to some random server, get it out. I don't know. Or you'd have to go full Monty and be like, Provenance, I shot this, go public big time to keep yourself alive once it gets out there. Because killing somebody at that point, if the video's out, it's not going to stop the video from being out.
Yeah, that's kind of the Bob Lazar method, That's
Yeah.
you put that story
Well,
out so big, so wide that if anything does happen, it confirms.
I met Bob Lazar, and I don't remember the year, but if I had to guess, I would say 93, maybe 94, something like this. And I was and believe me, when Bob Lazar came out in the late 80s, early 90s, everybody was talking about that guy. Like, holy smokes, right? And I met him, and I saw him at a conference. I think it was probably Nevada, but I don't remember. But I saw him, and I was like, holy shit, that's Bob Lazar. And I was in my 20s. I was like, I'm going to go meet this guy. So I went up on him, and I think I gave him a very brief, my name's James. I want to thank you for coming forward. And he goes, excuse me. He goes, I didn't have a choice, but thank you. And that was it. That was the only time I ever met him. But he made it seem like he didn't have a choice. Like, he came forward to protect his own ass. And, I know there's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of controversy around anyone making these extraordinary claims. I mean, and there's been controversy around, I was good friends with Stanton Friedman, and Stanton didn't believe Bob Lazar. he did a deep dive into his background, and he goes, I don't know, something fishy going on. But when I met Bob Lazar and people that I know that have met him, I said, I'm convinced that he believes what he's saying, but maybe he got fed some disinformation and real stuff just to kind of test the waters, to gauge the level of public reaction to such a story. I don't know. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. Yeah. So, last big question here. What's next for you?
I can neither confirm nor deny. No, I'm kidding. So I did a film called I Know What I Saw. It was a 2-hour special for History Channel. And it was basically about an event that we did at the National Press Club because, excuse me, I'm always thinking about, you do an event and it gets decent, viewership or media coverage. But you could probably reach millions more by making a movie out of it, especially over the decades. So I made a movie out of this event. I did it at the National Press Club in 2007. It took me a couple years to release it. I think I released it in 2009, late 2008, 2009. And I documented the event I just did, flying in all these Brazilian witnesses for the 30th anniversary, and I did the event at the National Press Club, and I documented the build up to it, at least 6 weeks, maybe more. The event itself, a lot of stuff behind the scenes, what it took to pull that off, and I will be beginning the editing process fairly soon. I'll be meeting with members of Congress and stuff and talking about what it was like to meet these witnesses and what kind of investigation is going on behind the scenes, and what do you think about crash retrieval and entities, and where are they, and why can't the public know the truth, that kind of thing. So I'll be doing that, but I'm also going to be doing other events that are going to be they're going to be there'll be press releases about them.
Awesome. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't wait to see what's coming out on that front. So
Well,
I've got
I'm not getting any younger, so I'm trying to. I feel like there's so much forward momentum after 30 plus years in the field. I want to make these last few years count.
yeah, and you've definitely more than succeeded at that. I mean, the phenomenon is required viewing at Arrow.
I know, isn't that crazy?
It's insane. It's when I spoke to Tim Phillips off camera, he said that it was an excellent movie despite the official line.
Yeah.
So I've got 2 final kind of softball questions for you, but I try to ask every one of my guests, and they are: what is your favorite food or meal, and what is your guilty pleasure dessert?
Okay, so my guilty pleasure dessert is lava cake. It's flourless lava cake, and it's like that flourless crust on the outside, right? And then you got this like molten lava chocolate on the inside. Oh my Lord, that with like a little vanilla ice cream or a little bit of whipping cream. It's my favorite dessert, man. And I'll wash it down with a nice glass of red wine or something. Woo! Or a coffee, whatever. Favorite meal? I love a steak. I love a steak. I really love a good steak with like a nice glazed sauce or God, I went to a buddy of mine manages Make-A-Wish. And as a result, I guess periodically they get gifted like hotel rooms or to accommodate whatever. And he made a reservation at a hotel in Canada at the Four Seasons. And his passport had expired when he got to the border. So he called me up and he's like, this room's going to expire and it's free. It's already, you just got to go. So I was like, gosh, okay, 4 Seasons? Hell yeah. Like, so I went up to the 4 Seasons for free. And I was like, I'm going to spend some money on a steak because why the hell not? So I went out to their restaurant there and I got a filet mignon that was like the best damn steak I've ever had. And it had like this grilled onions with other different vegetable sauce. Oh my gosh. And funny enough, the chef came out and he was like, I wanted to meet you. You're James Fox. And I love the phenomenon. And it was really cool. I'd have to say the flourless chocolate cake, lava cake, and then a nice steak would be probably my 2 favorites. And I have a lot of close seconds. I like Chinese. I like Thai. I like,
Yeah,
but a nice
absolutely.
steak, man. I really enjoy a nice steak.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Well, if you're ever in Northeast Washington, you're invited over. Steaks and lava cake are on me.
I appreciate that. I really do. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're just about out of time, but I'm gonna end the recording and we'll just talk for a minute or two and get everything ironed out. And it was great
Well, thanks
speaking
for
with
having
you.
me on. I hope I didn't blab too much.
I could listen to you blab for about another 65 hours straight. So,
Oh, cool.
all right. Thanks again, James.
Of course.
From British shores to the California lights, a young director stepped into the fight. With 50 years of denial, he challenged the light. Shattered the silence that darkened the sky. Then out of the blue, an altar lit the screen. Peter Coyote's voice made the whole world lean. He's chasing the unknown where the secrets hide. James Fox on a mission, turning the tide. No more denial, the truth starts to break. One free love, a time for humanity sake. Moment of contact, the veil's coming down. He's bringing the stars right here to the ground. I know what I saw, the brave ones all spoke. Pilots and generals, no ordinary folk. He gathered the credible, kept the hype away. Built a legacy that still stands today. A phenomenon hit like a thunderclap roar. Jacques Vallée stepped in, opened every locked door. Then moment of contact brought Brazil into view. Varginha, strange night of the beings that flew. Through decades of laughter, denial, and stone, one man kept rolling, never fighting alone. While the world kept spinning and turning away, he stayed in the trenches till the break of day. Now the new revelations cut straight to the bone. He went back to Varginha, refused to leave it alone. A neurosurgeon stepped forward with a story so rare. 4 minutes face to face with a being held there. The police chief and pathologist sat at their weight. A living encounter that sealed a much stronger fate. James Fox returned with the latest hard proof, pushing us closer to the ultimate truth. He's chasing the